In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and that was the beginning of America, right? Wrong. In fact, millennia before Columbus, there were countless unique communities spread across North America, and while it's hard to establish just how many of America's indigenous peoples existed during this time, estimates range anywhere from 2.1 million to 18 million. But by 1800, the Native American population had declined to approximately 600,000. By the 1890s, numbers dropped to 250,000. So what happened between the 16th and 19th centuries? Well, a couple of things. The most well known is the spread of the disease. Native populations had no immunity to the diseases being introduced by European colonists. For them, measles and chickenpox were deadly. Along the New England coast between 1616 and 1618, epidemics claimed the lives of 75% of native people, and in the 1630s, half the Huron and Iroquois around the Great Lakes died of smallpox. As is often the case with disease, the very young and the very old are the most vulnerable. Losing the older generation meant the loss of knowledge and tradition, while the death of children only compounded the trauma, creating devastating implications for future generations. It's also important to note that some of these diseases were deliberately spread by Europeans as a form of biological warfare. The most well-known example occurred in 1763, when smallpox-infected blankets were used to spread disease and wipe out populations of native people. However, disease and warfare were not the only reasons for the decline in Native American populations. There was also a large network of native slave trade. Before 1700 in the Carolinas, a quarter of all enslaved people were Native American men, women, and children. Many tribes had to move to escape the slave trade, which destroyed some tribes completely. In Evanston specifically, the dominating tribes were the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi, known as the Three Fires Nations. In 1829, their land was ceded in a treaty. Northwestern's campus sits on native land once used as a site for trade, gathering, and healing for more than a dozen native nations outside the Three Fires Nations. The area is still home to over 100,000 tribal members that live in Illinois. It is important to recognize that while Native American numbers were heavily impacted by European settlement, that does not make their communities a relic of the past. They're still here, a part of one of the more than 560 federally recognized tribes throughout the U.S.